In this lesson, we'll be learning how to add and subtract fractions. Our first question is 1/2 plus 2/5, and we have the diagrams here to help us with 1/2 shaded and 2/5 shaded. When adding and subtracting fractions, the denominators must be the same. Our denominators are currently 2 and 5. We need to think of a number that 2 and 5 both go into. The smallest one is usually the easiest one to work with. The smallest one will be called our lowest common multiple. So what I need to do is change 1/2 to its equivalent fraction out of 10. So how would I get 2 to change to 10? I would times it by 5. And the rule tells us whatever we do to the denominator, we need to do to the numerator. So 1 times 5 will give us 5. And how would we go from 5 to 10? We would times it by 2. So we do the same thing to our numerator. 2 times 2 gives us 4. Just so we understand, let's look at this 1/2 that we've got shaded here. If I split this diagram into 10 equal parts, 1/2 is still shaded, but we can also see that 5/10 is also shaded. That's why these two fractions are equivalent. And if we look at the 2/5 and we split that one into 10 equal parts, we still have 2/5 shaded, but we also have 4/10. From here, if we're adding fractions, we keep the denominator the same and we add the numerators. 5 plus 4 is equal to 9. So the final answer for 1/2 plus 2/5 is equal to 9/10. Let's look at another question. 2/3 plus 3/4. The denominators are 3 and 4. We think of the lowest common multiple, which is 12. Both numbers can go into 12. And how would we change 3 to 12? We would times by 4. So we do the same thing to our numerator. 2 times 4 is 8. And how would we change from 4 to 12? We would multiply by 3. Do the same thing to our numerator. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So once again, we'll have a look at these diagrams to help us understand. We're saying that 2/3 is equal to 8/12. Currently, I have 2/3 shaded here. What happens if I divide this into 12 equal pieces? I still have 2/3 shaded, but it's also equivalent to 8/12. So I know I'm doing it correctly. And the second diagram, which is 3/4, if I split that into 12 equal parts, it is equal to 9 out of 12, which is what I have here. So I continue by keeping my denominator the same and adding my numerators. 9 plus 8 is 17. This is an improper fraction. If we change it to a mixed number, how many 12s go into 17? 1. With a remainder of 5, which becomes our numerator, and the 12 remains the same. So the final answer for 2/3 plus 3/4 is equal to 1 and 5/12. And if you need help understanding how to change an improper fraction to a mixed number, you can find that in one of my previous videos. Let's have a look at one more addition. We have 5 and 3 being our denominators. The lowest common multiple is 15. How do we get 5 to 15? We times by 3. We do the same to our numerator. 4 times 3 gives us 12. And to go from 3 to 15, we times by 5. We do the same to our numerator. 2 times 5 gives us 10. We keep the denominator the same. Add the numerators. 12 plus 10 gives us 22. This is our improper fraction. To change to a mixed number, How many lots of 15 can we get in 22? 1. And the remainder is 7. Our denominator remains the same. 4/5 plus 2/3, final answer is equal to 1 and 7/15. Now we're going to look at our first subtraction question, which we do in the same way as the addition. We find our lowest common multiple. We have 7 and 6. So let's look at 42. How do we get from 7 to 42? We times by 6. So we do the same to the numerator. 6 times 6 is 36. And to get from 6 to 42, we times by 7. We do the same thing to our numerator. 5 times 7 is 35. Our denominator remains the same. 36 take away 35 is 1. So the final answer to 6/7 take away 5/6 is equal to 1 over 42. Now we look at our first question involving mixed numbers. You should know that a mixed number is made up of a whole number and a proper fraction. I like to use pizzas when teaching addition of mixed numbers. If I have 2 pizzas and 1/3 of a pizza, and I'm adding it to 5.5 pizzas, the first thing I'm going to do is put those whole pizzas together. So I have 2 wholes plus another 5. So in total I have 7 whole pizzas. Then I can deal with my fractions separately. 1/3 plus 1/2. Lowest common multiple, 6. How do you get from 3 to 6? Times 2. Do the same to the numerator. So we have 1 times 2 is 2. This side, 2 times 3 gives us 6. 1 times 3 gives us 3. Keep the denominator. Add our numerators. So the answer to 1/3 plus 1/2 is 5/6. But we can't forget our 7 whole pizzas. So our final answer is 7 and 5/6. We do the subtraction in the same way. We start with our wholes. So 7 whole pizzas take away 3 whole pizzas. We're left with 4 whole pizzas. Then we go to our fractions. We have 3/4 take away 2/5. Our denominators need to be the same. So I'm going to change them both to 20. How do we get from 4 to 20? We times by 5. Do the same to the numerator. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 to 20 times by 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 15 over 20, take away 8 over 20. 7/20. Again, this answer, 7/20, is 3/4 take away 2/5. The final answer to our question, we can't forget about this whole, these wholes. So we have 4 and 7 out of 20. And that's our final answer. Now we're going to look at a trickier subtraction question. We start the same way. 10 take away 8. We have 2 whole pizzas. Now I'm just going to draw 2 whole pizzas here so we can have a look what we're dealing with. We go to our fractions. We have 3/5 take away 2/3. We get the lowest common multiple for our denominators, which is 15. 5 times 3 gives us 15. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 gives us 15. 2 times 5 is 10. We keep our denominator. And looking at our numerators, we have 9 take away 10. At this point, you don't want to think that you're doing anything incorrectly. 9 take away 10 is -1. So up to this point, it's correct. What we can't do is say that our final answer is 2 and minus 1 out of 15. That's wrong. What this means is that we have 1 out of 15 short. We need to remember we still have 2 whole pizzas here. So if I was to write this whole as a fraction, using this denominator, because that tells me how many it's out of, this would be 15 out of 15, that first pizza. And this second pizza will also have 15 slices out of 15. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take away one of those slices because I'm short one slice. So I'm going to take my 2 whole pizzas and I'm going to take away the 1/15, and that is going to leave me with 1 whole pizza. And when I take away 1/15 from this pizza, I'll be left with 14 over 15. So the final answer to this question, 10 and 3/5, take away 8 and 2/3, is 1 and 14 over 15. I'm going to do another question like this if you don't quite understand. Let's have a look at this one. I'm going to start with my 6 whole pizzas and I'm going to take away 3 of them and I'm going to be left with 3 whole pizzas. So I have 1, 2, 3 whole pizzas here. I go to my fractions, 1/4, take away 2/3. Lowest common multiple, 12. To get from 4 to 12 times 3. So I do the same to my numerator. Get 1 times 3 is 3. From 3 to 12 times 4. Same to my numerator. 2 times 4 is 8. And this is the point where things start looking a little bit different. We keep the denominator the same, which is 12. And we take away our numerators as we normally would. 3 take away 8 is minus 5. So what we have here is minus 5 over 12, which means we're short 5 out of 12. So we need to remember we have 3 whole pizzas here. So I'm going to go to my 3 whole pizzas and I'm going to take away the 5/12 that I'm missing. So in this pizza I have 12 out of 12 slices because the denominator tells me how many slices there are in total. The second one I have 12 out of 12 and the third one I have 12 out of 12. So when I go to my 3 pizzas and I take away 5 out of 12 slices from one of them, it would leave me with 2 whole pizzas and a remaining fraction, which is 7/12. So the final answer to 6 1/4 take away 3 2/3 is equal to 2 7/12. Here are some practice questions for you to do. When you're ready, pause the video and have a go. And when you're finished and ready for the answers, press play. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for weekly videos and you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook.